What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Randy here with RTS Mobile Gaming, bringing you a fantastic, absolutely dynamite video today. We are playing The Lord of the Rings Rise to War, and in today's video we are talking about multiple different builds with the Undying, which one is better or best in which scenario and why, okay? So give me that like and sub if you enjoy the content. And also, go to the description of my video. I have a link there to join the Forge Discord, which is a collective hive mind. We've got great minds there. Fish Wizard and Jay Mills kind of started this group. We got Crystal Fire. We got all kinds of folks over here. Okay, we've got Unanimous. We have tons of people, over 1,000 players in the Discord. We're all giving all kinds of advice and builds and tips, tricks, answering questions. So join today, be part of the group. All right, now into the video. Here we go. Yes, yes, I'm excited now. In this first build here, we are going to call this Army Support Build 1, okay? So we're going to compare overall effectiveness of the Army versus the Witch King. Three identical reports with 3 different builds, okay? So we're going to compare overall commander damage. We're going to compare soldier damage. We're going to compare damage received. And we're going to compare healing output, even though the healing output really is situational and probably doesn't need to be mentioned. We'll skip the healing output. We are now skipping the healing output. All right, so in this particular build, I'll just run through the Undying. The gear and the troops are the same in every fight, only the build is changing, okay? So gear, I have plus attack and melee damage. Okay, I have plus melee defense and reduced damage received. I've got plus HP and madness debuff. And then, of course, I have the Bone Talisman, which has fantastic might, focus, and speed, as well as evil men damage, okay? For this particular build, for the Army build, support build number 1, I said build many times, okay? First things first, we are focusing on the Undead Commander, 15 out of 15, to give all 3 of my units a 60% chance to evade 4 physical strikes, okay? If we can assume that we're going to dodge an average of 2.5 attacks per unit times 3 units, we're going to be looking at somewhere around 7 to 8 attacks dodged. This should significantly reduce the damage that my units receive over the course of the battle, okay? In addition to that, we have minus 6 damage dealt to the enemy units, okay? Then we have the Ring Wraith ability, which is going to give my units, my Corsairs especially, and my Undying Commander, plus 30% elemental damage. I'm going to have 1 point in Morgul Poison to kind of be an overriding debuff to hopefully cover the Dishearten and prevent that from being dispelled. And then we have 7 out of 7 points into Nazgul Screech, which will be a round 1 stun and round 2 nuke, okay? This is going to be damage mitigation as well as a nice nuke in round 2. And then lastly, of course, the signature ability, the Second Wind, is going to prevent all enemy healing after round 4. Really, everybody's healing after round 4. And provide a phenomenal healing nuke in round 4, okay? And for this build, we are running Fanaticism to give my army units bonus damage dealt every round, okay? So, into the raw numbers here. Again, we're just fighting against a Witch King, a 1-star Witch King, same build every fight, okay? In this particular battle, you can see that the overall commander numbers here, we've got 24,367 damage output. We've got 166k soldier damage output and damage received. This is the key factor for you guys to pay attention to. Damage received is only 48,000 against 19k in healing, okay? Less healing because I have a little bit less damage received, right? The more damage received you have, the more you'll have available to heal until you reach the cap on your healing output, all right? So, keep that in mind. That's why I figured, you know what, maybe I don't talk about the heal too much. So, we are going to talk about the round 2 numbers. I'm not going to really go too much into the line by line. I've already done the calculations for you. So, I'm going to go ahead and just walk through the round 2 numbers for you. In round 2 of the fight, we're talking about round 2, because round 1, right, the Witch King's going to stun my guys, my Undying's going to stun his guys, we're going to have all kinds of things happening. Round 2, the CCs kind of disappear, right, the madness should be done. We're going to be looking at just straight up maximum damage output from both armies, okay? So, here in round 2, for this particular build, we had a total of 10,649 commander damage output, okay? And that is a combination of all different types of things from the Undying's auto attack, okay? The Undying's Morgul Poison, the Undying's Nazgul Screech trigger, right? The Nazgul Screech trigger for 3,900 damage, right? So between all of his triggers in this fight, we had 10,649 damage output from the commander. We had 33,713 damage output from the army, okay? This is a very high damage output from the army here in round 2. This is going to be everything from the falling, punching them in the face here, or the Corsairs punching them in the face. The Corsairs will have massively increased damage because they're getting all these bonuses from the Undying. They're going to deal great damage there, right? All of those things combined will be phenomenal, okay? And then damage received. Damage received will be, of course, affected by the Undying's ability to dodge the attacks, the first 4 melee attacks from his Undead Commander ability here. You can see here, for example, the Morgul Arbalest attacked. My Halberdiers dodged the attack. They did not dodge the poison damage because the poison is not physical, okay? So, keep in mind that with all the dodges that happened in this round, the total damage received was 16,412, okay? All right. Now, those are important numbers. I will talk about comparing those in a minute when we get into the next couple reports, okay? So here we go. Next report we're going to talk about here is going to be Commander Damage Hybrid Build number 2, okay? This is this is Fish Wizard's anti-elemental damage. He uses this to counter commanders like Galadriel. So keep in mind it's not exactly as effective against a Witch King as it is against a massively high focus commander like Galadriel. But we're going to compare it in this build analysis just for the gigs, okay? So in this particular build, the differences, of course, are going to be in the Undying skill set. We have gone into the Respect 1 tree. We have pulled out of the Undead Commander, so we no longer have the Avoidance ability or the minus damage received to the enemy, okay? Instead, we have the Undertaker, which will increase my commander damage output. This is going to deal splash damage, the same as the Undying. We have 7 out of 7 into the Plague, which is going to deal decent damage, okay, every going into round 3. So you won't see this trigger in round 2. And then we have the Delayed Plague, which will be a nice damage nuke coming later in the battle, okay? In addition to that, we have 6 out of 15 into Ring Wraith, which will increase the enemy's burn, poison, and focus damage received by 12%. And we have 3 points into Nazgul Screech, okay? And then lastly, of course, Second Wind maxed out, Fanaticism maxed out, but the real difference here is Chilling Edge. What Chilling Edge does is it steals 140 focus from the enemy commander, and it decays by 20 focus every round, okay? So by round 2, it's decayed to 120 focus drain, but it's still extremely nice, all right? So what does that look like on the battlefield? Well, actual damage output here, we've got 45k damage output from the commander compared to the previous build's 24k, okay? So just under double the commander damage output with this build. Basically, that tier 1 tree added 24k damage output, okay? Unit damage is a little bit lower because the commander damage was higher. Unit damage was actually 152,000 versus 166,000, okay? And then healing was significantly higher because the damage received was higher. So the damage received here was 74,840 versus damage received of 48,028 from the previous build. So losing the Undead tree, the Respect 0 title tree there, the Undead, giving you that dodge ability, letting your units have a 60% chance to dodge the first 4 physical damage received. That significantly increased the damage received by about 50%. A little bit over 50%, somewhere around 55% increased damage received without that build in round, throughout the course of the fight, right? And then in round 2, you'll see that reflected, okay? So here we go. Let's talk about that. And surprisingly, the commander damage was actually lower in round 2 because some of his big damage nukes come in round 3 and round 6. So round 3, 6, and 9 are really the big damage nukes from the Undying's skill here, the Plague, okay? whereas his Undertaker is going to have some damage, but his Nazgul Screech's damage is significantly reduced with only 3 out of 7 points. So his nukes in round 2 are less. It's going to skew the report a little bit, but I want to keep the standard for this, okay? So here in round 2 of this fight, we had a total of 9,753 damage in round 2 from the commander, the Undying. Soldier damage was a little bit lower as well at 26,653. That is below the 33,713 soldier damage from the first army build, okay? And then damage received is up in round 2. We have a total of 22,757 damage received here in round 2 versus only 16,412 damage received in round 1, okay? And that is an increase of actually about 38% increase in the damage received in round 2, okay? So obviously in the first 1 and 2 rounds, that heavy chance, that 60% chance to dodge the physical damage is very effective against the Witch King's physical build here, okay? And then damage received, right, of course, is going to reflect that. Okay, so that is build number 2. And then we have lastly build number 3. This is the Commander Damage Hybrid build number 3. This is a slightly different variation of the hybrid damage output build. This will deal different types of damage than what your... Is this the right build? This is the wrong build. Hang on. Here it is. This is going to deal similar damage, but with a slightly different setup, okay? Instead of focusing on big nuke damage in rounds 3, 6, and 9, this is going to focus on big nuke damage in round 2 and heavy, consistent damage throughout the fight because his auto attacks will benefit from the full 30% bonus poison damage received by the enemies, okay? So we're going to have Ring Wraith maxed out. We're going to have Undertaker maxed out. We're going to have Nazgul Screech maxed out. This is going to really slightly increase his damage output by about 10% compared to the other build, okay? And then instead of Chilling Edge, of course, I have maxed out... I have put the Chilling Edge points into Ring Wraith and Nazgul Screech, okay? So instead of having the chilling Edge, which really isn't going to help me against this particular Witch King, I would say the other build that we just talked about is pretty strong against an enemy Galadriel for sure, but I would say that overall this would definitely be fantastic, okay? So, here we go. Into the report itself, okay? Commander damage output, slightly higher than the previous build. The previous build was 45k. This is 50k, 366. Soldier damage is a little bit lower at 140k, 788, which means we probably triggered a Madness proc in round 1. If I dealt less damage, he probably had some self-inflicted damage there. And then damage received, similarly, is reduced because of the Madness proc, as well as the Nazgul Screech being max level did stun 2 units, whereas in the previous fight, I believe it only stunned 1. Okay, so because of that, the damage received is down from 74,840 down to 53,248. Okay, and then the healing is reflective of the damage received at 24k. Okay, into round 2 totals. All right. Okay, so this is going to be actually the highest round 2 damage. Like I said, this build will have consistent damage throughout the fight. It won't spike in round 3, 6, and 9. It'll have consistent damage with a spike in round 2 due to the Nazgul Screech, but then fairly consistent for every round afterwards, okay? So its commander damage here in round 2 is going to actually be a total of 16,227, okay? The soldier damage output is 30,726. And the damage received is 22,089. So the damage received in round 2 is almost identical to the previous build because there's no avoidance and you're fighting the same target, the same army. Really no surprise there. The only thing that surprised me, of course, was seeing the enormous damage increase from having Ring Wraith maxed out and Nazgul Screech maxed out, getting that extra almost 6,500 damage output. In fact, almost exactly 6,500 damage, higher damage output in round 2 with this particular build because it had the higher Nazgul Screech nuke, okay? And you can see the auto attacks here, 2802 versus the auto attacks in the other build was at, I just want to compare that particular line item. 2802 versus, and this is, of course, with the focus from the chilling, 2802 versus 2381. So that difference in the ring wraith, even though the Undying has 126 focus still stolen from the enemy in round 2, that 126 focus doesn't quite outweigh the Undying's damage output from the increased percentage of elemental damage received from the ring wraith ability, okay? So 2381, so almost a 20%, I'd say, what is that, 18% or so damage increase, which kind of makes sense because we have, that's funny. It's actually an 18% increase because this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. I did math once right for the first time in the universe. This only has 12% ring wraith, and the other build has 30% ring wraith, which is, of course, a 18% increase in damage, which is exactly the difference in the auto attack. So nice to see that calculate out correctly. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, just to recap for you, the first build seems to be the strongest build here, this army-centered build that does give the undead commander bonus to the units and reduce damage dealt by the enemy units, okay? This combines a strong balance of commander, crowd control, and damage output because it does have this nice damage nuke in round 2, as well as guaranteed stuns. But really, it focuses on bonusing your army, okay? Between fanaticism and the undead commander, it really, really is centered around supporting the army with next to no commander damage, okay? The second strongest build, I do like the Chilling Edge build. I feel like it would be much stronger against actual PvP commanders, so I'm going to rank the Chilling Edge build as the second favorite build here. I like that. The changes I would make to this build is I would take the points out of Plague and Delayed Plague and really do my best to maximize Ring Wraith and Nazgul Screech and use those points that way to get that extra 18% damage increase. But it's tough to say, right? Because the damage output was only slightly under the other hybrid build that had those abilities in there. So tough to say how that would play out, but that's my one tweak to that build. And then we have the Commander Damage Hybrid Build 3, right, which is this other build here. It's this first build that the last build that we looked at. This one, like I said, had slightly higher damage output because the Ring Wraith was maxed out. But I don't think this is going to outperform commanders like the Shadow in PvP. The Chilling Edge ability and the anti-heal is very, very nice to see. It's going to be very good to face against high-focus commanders in the PvP. I think if you want to go this pure damage build with the Undying, you're better off going the Shadow and running pure damage build with the Shadow, okay? So, those are my recommendations. I would not run this particular build. Like I said, the Shadow will do this better. He'll do a better job at this build. If you're going to run any build, either run the Army Support build or the Anti-Focus Damage build, all right? You heard it here. I love you guys. Long time. Sorry for the in-depth video here. I just want to go through in great detail. I love you all. Randy out. Oh, join the Forge.